Alright, I'm gonna do a little bit of yakking as I walk by this machine here. We're gonna put this away today. Finish putting it away. Timothy's got it cleaned off pretty good. Not perfect, but you know what? Nothing's perfect in this world. And I will say, my hat's off to my TR96. Did a wonderful job doing the harvest. We were able to harvest everything without a major incident, any incidents for that matter, just a couple of minor things. This corn planter is going to get put away as well. Got some news on what I'm going to do with this thing. Yeah, what I'm going to do with it. It's my 50-year-old corn planter. But before I do any of that, I'm going to walk out here and see if I can find my grain drill. And we're going to talk about no-till farming, or no-till. What constitutes no-till? What is no-till? What isn't no-till? What could be considered no-till? What could be considered minimum till? What is it? Okay, so here's my John Deere 750 no-till drill. If you notice, there are disc blades, depth wheels, firming wheels, closing wheels, and springs and all kinds of stuff. I rebuilt this machine this spring. It works wonderfully. I have about $13,000 in new bits and pieces into this thing, even though I don't have new wheels and gauge wheels and stuff like that on it. So this is where I'm going to try and make people understand what it is I'm doing. All right, so no-till farming. I'm going to do no-till farming. Is it no-till? Is it not? Well, this is a no-till drill. I can very easily go out into the field, and any field, whether it's got grass growing in it or whatever, and I can drop this thing down and put a seed in the ground right where I want it at the inch and a half rate for soybeans, wheat, rye, barley, whatever I want to put in the ground. Okay, I got new tires on the back of it because I splurged and did that. So there's 21 hose or 21 discs, 24 discs on this one, not 21. 24 discs on this thing, spaced at 7.5 inches. So they're 15 inches. Each one is apart. And in the front, they're 15 inches. And the difference is split right down the center, which gives us the 7.5 inch spacing. So is that no-till? Putting a disc in the ground, opening it up, closing it up. The firming wheel firms the seed. This here crumbles the V, or the side wall of the trench. Closing it up, crumbles it up, makes it so that there is a soft seed bed to, chew, for the seed to come up through. All right, so we got 21 hose running across, or 24 hose running across the field. Yippee skippy, yippee ki-yay, it's good. I got flat tires everywhere, don't I? Flat tires on the tractors, flat tire on a 5020, flat tire on the 8120. And yeah, but anyways, that's not what we're talking about. So if I go across this field and I've planted my crop, that is considered no-till. Now if I go up to my no-till or my vertical tillage machine, now those are straight cut, actually not even a straight cut. Those blades are on an angle so that they cut a slot. Now my vertical tillage machine has also got blades, and you can angle them up to 6 degrees. Oh, there goes the township. What the hell they're up to? I'm gonna go put lawnmowers away for this season. So that vertical tillage machine also has blades. They are straight though. They cut straight, and I can angle them up to 6 degrees. I like to run the blades straight. Sometimes I'll run an angle like when I'm planting or tilling in rye. So there are several different functions that you can do with this machine. You can, until I get up here, I know this is going to confuse people more than it explains probably. In the end, the question is it no-till or is it not? I would say that it is minimum till over no-till, but you know, I would still consider it no-till if I only did it in the fall and then went in the spring with no-till, because I hadn't tilled it before I went to work. So now here's the vertical tillage machine. These are straight wavy coulter blades on 7.5-inch centers. Okay, so when I unfold it, that blade it splits the difference. So you've got 3 3/4 inches between blades. One cut, one cut, one cut, one cut. Now, if these are straight cut, are they any different than a coulter on the front of, say, your corn planter? Is that coulter any different? The wavy coulter that you would have on the front of your no-till corn planter, directly in front of your disc openers, is that any different? Have you changed from till to no-till if this blade is attached to your no-till corn planter? Or does that somehow make it tilled ground? So here you've got these wavy coulters that are going to be running straight. When I go to plant, they're going to be straight. Now, these are the things which they absolutely need to be cleaned off. These things will pick up any string that's ever in a field. It will pick them up. And I'm going to clean this thing up today anyway, because we're done with it for the season. So if I'm just running the blades in the ground straight without turning any soil, which a vertical tillage machine does not turn soil. It lifts, it drops, it fractures it to the depth that you set it. Now, I've got mine set to 1.5 inches. When I was doing the rye, I actually went to 3 inches. Just cut straight slots 3 inches deep. And these little tine bars, they stirred the seed in and around in the dirt. Okay? So these could be considered tillage. These are just firming rollers. These roll and I broke it the other day. I got new parts ordered. I broke it. Teresa hit a telephone pole with it, and I screwed up and hit the switch and pushed it the wrong way. Instead of folding it up, I didn't do anything, and I went through a fence row, and of course that roller, that basket roller caught a walnut tree and snapped it off. Yeah, I had good welds though, but it snapped it there, which is fine. I'm okay with that. So in the spring, when I go to lay down my cover crop, which is another thing I'm going to touch on in this video, because some people don't understand the benefits of a cover crop. But anyway, so now I've removed these from the front of my corn planter and basically have put them onto this machine here. When I do lay down the cover crop, these will be off of the machine. They will not be engaged. They will be pulled up out of the way or completely removed from this vertical tillage machine. And that's a fact. I'm taking them off. So the tine bars will be off this spring, so that all I do is chew the cover crop and crimp the cover crop. That's all these things are going to do. They're going to crimp them. They're basically a roller crimper. Basically a roller crimper. If you haven't heard me, is basically a roller crimper. Those blades are only going to be set to about an inch or 1.5 inches deep. So when I go over everything with the corn planter or even that grain drill, when I plant soybeans in the spring, they will be set to the same depth or deeper than what this disc is cutting into the soil. So the seed will actually be placed into undisturbed soil. Okay? Undisturbed soil. These will be off. Those will be rolling the material down, crushing it into the ground. And it'll be easier for me to it'll be easier for the seed to come up through it, and it'll be easier for me to have a non-shaded out corn crop, because that's what I had. I had a lot of shading issues with the standing hay. It didn't lay it down, caused it problems, and that was just that. So anyway, I hope you understand what I'm saying here, that I would consider this minimum till at the least. Now, when I'm planting wheat or rye with this machine, these tine bars are engaged. I do angle these blades 2 to 3 degrees depending on the soil conditions. The wetter it is, the steeper the angle I will make it. The reason for that is because it doesn't crumble anything when it's wet, so you actually have to twist it a little bit and get that dirt loosened up so that these tine bars can stir in the seed. That is tillage. That is, to me, that is tillage. That is working that soil in some fashion or the other, and these are firming the soil back down with the seed into the, and the seed, good seed to soil contact from the rolling baskets. So, yeah, this machine does not break new ground. Now, if I was to go out and chisel plow a piece of ground, right, and then decided I wanted to go over it with this vertical tillage machine, I would angle it to 6 degrees. 6 degrees, that will actually move the soil over, and these tine bars would level the where the chisel plow had gone, and of course the rolling baskets would firm any stones and things back to the soil, and then of course you would plant through it. So you can use these machines as finishing tools. Yes, finishing tools. Yeah. Or if you had a disc harrow running ahead of you and you wanted to go over it with this once, this would definitely make a beautiful seed bed with a disc harrow in front of you and then this thing finishing you up. So they're very versatile. Are you going to bust new ground with this thing? No. I mean, there are people that drop them right to the hubs. There are farmers that will drop these suckers right down 4, 6, 8 inches deep, and think that they're going to turn new ground. They're not going to turn ground. It doesn't turn ground. It just basically cuts in, fractures the soil, raises it up, drops it back down again, and allows a little oxygenation of the soil. It allows water infiltration if you need it, and when you do that, but Great Plains doesn't recommend that. I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend about that much of your blade, about 1.5 inches to 2 inches maximum. That's all I would ever do, because that's the whole point of this machine, is to just disturb the top 1 inch to 2 inches of soil for water infiltration and ease of emergence in your crop. I had a lot of problems this spring with the seed corn not emerging at the same time, 2 or 3 days behind, and then the shading problems from the standing hay that I had put the corn through. So I'm trying to alleviate that, do away with those problems, the emergence problems, by just cutting those slots, allowing the soil to dry out a little bit quicker, dry out a little bit quicker, not turning anything, just cutting straight slots, and laying that cover crop flat so that I don't have any shading issues. And I'm being repetitive here because a lot of people don't understand what I'm saying. They're saying, oh, well, that's tillage, that's tillage. If you want to call it tillage, knock your socks off. I think it's more or less no different than a coulter on the front of your row unit that you are, that is on your corn planter, your no-till corn planter. Christine Jones, which is a world-renowned, I want to say a biologist. She is a biologist, a world-renowned biologist and regenerative ag proponent, I guess you want to say, or proponent. She wants people to understand regenerative ag and what it takes to grow a crop isn't what you've been told all your life. And tillage, and there's several videos that she talked about, has talked about tillage being okay to a degree. Minor tillage practices like what I've done. Buy this vertical tillage machine, only till the top. She was talking about 3 to 4 inches one guy was doing, and he was planting cover crops that way. A lot of guys like Gabe Brown and David, what the heck is his last name now? Well, whatever. They're 100% do not till the soil. Well, if you have a compost or compost tea that you've sprayed on, incorporating that a little bit isn't going to hurt you. It's actually pretty good. I think that if you've got sour soils or acidic soils and you need to get calcium or lime on, definitely, you know, because you have to start from somewhere. Definitely run a vertical tillage machine after you've put lime on. Get that calcium working in the top inch and a half of your soil, so that you have a quicker response, a quicker fungus response and biological response. Definitely, I'm all for that. Tilling the top inch and a half to get a quick response to, you know, so that your soil pHs rise up enough that you have a healthy microbiology in your soil. Because without a healthy pH, you will never have a healthy biological you know, microorganism in your soil. It just isn't going to happen. So yeah, if you want to call it minimum tillage, I'll go that far. If you want to call it no-till, I would say that it is. I would say that it is probably pretty close to no-till, as close to no-till as you're going to get without actually turning over soil. If you don't know what a vertical tillage machine is, I can never explain it to you. It is not a high-speed disc. I know there's a lot of people that were telling me, "Oh, you should have bought an accelerator." An accelerator is a high-speed disc. Turbo Max is a vertical tillage machine. The Terra Max is a high-speed disc. Those have a low concavity disc, meaning it is angled. It is turning over soil. This does not. Even at 6 degrees, it does not turn soil over. It doesn't flip anything. It just moves it. That's it. Loosens it, moves it. Does not create a plow pan or a shear plow sheared or smear soil. It just doesn't. But yeah, I can't say enough good things about this machine. Just don't buy one if you expect to have your fields look like you went over it with a rototiller. It's not going to happen. Now, if you go over the field 3 times, you could get the top inch and a half powder. It will powder it. I mean, it really will. My wife, she is like my grandmother was. She wants a nice flat level seed bed that looks like, you know, somebody went over it with a rototiller in a laser level. And you can do that with this thing if you go over it several times. But if you're looking for that type of a soil agitation, you can go buy a high-speed disc or something. Chisel plow it, high-speed disc, and life is good for you. I really am really pleased with the way this worked. I can't tell you enough. And I'm going to go get my gloves on now, and I'm going to start picking off all of this dirt that has accumulated in here, and then I'm going to take it over to my sprayer tanks. I got a tank of water there, and I'm going to blast the remaining dirt off of it and get it ready to put away for the winter. I'm going to stick it under. There's a roof over there next to where that corn planter is. I'm going to stuff it in there. Oh yeah, so that's life. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. And what was the other thing I was going to talk about? What was it? Oh, cover crops. Cover crops. Okay, so there was a guy that made a comment about cover crops, and I got to tell you, don't be ignorant, man. You know, I was like, I don't see the point in cover crops. If you're genuinely not sure what cover crops do for you, there's a lot of information out there. I suggest you go to Gabe Brown, Green Cover Seed. David, oh God, what the heck is his latest name? Anyways, they have some, hold on, they've got some really good information about what cover crops do. Cover crop is basically a crop that you will never harvest. It can be clover, it can be timothy. Timothy's actually a really good cover crop, honest to God. Buckwheat, it could be mustard, it can be sunflowers, it could be anything that you're not going to harvest. And what those cover crops do, each one sequesters a different type of nutrient and a different microbiological activity. So if you have a monoculture, it's only sequestering one. Like corn, you go out and plant corn, you're only going to have one type of response. But if you plant, say, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12-way species, you've got a very diverse microorganism, like a microbiome, that is all working together to sequester calcium, zinc, sulfur. Sulfur is very important. You don't want to add too much sulfur because that could also kill your microbiology. Nitrogen, believe it or not, yeah, with nitrogen affixing legumes and things like that. The longer you leave a living root out in your field before you plant your monoculture or your cash crop, the more money you're going to save from the fertilizer plant. If you take a soil test right after you take your cash crop off, and then take another soil test just before you plant your cash crop, you're going to have two very different soil tests. They will not be the same. Your pH will be different. Your zinc, your calcium, your magnesium, your manganese, your zinc, all that stuff is going to be very different from the time that you took off your cash crop, put in your cover crop, and then terminate your cover crop for the cash crop. If you were to take your soil test before, after you harvest, and before you plant again, your mind will be blown. I mean blown. It'll be like Hiroshima inside your skull as to the difference in those tests. It's amazing. Like, if you planted a field of corn and you figured you would do nutrient building, like I'm going to add a little extra potash and a little extra phosphate because these levels are low and I really want to bring them up. You take your cash crop off, you go out, and it's going to show that all that shit is low. It's gone. Where did it go? You know, where'd it go? Oh, it must have went out in the grain. Well, it didn't go out in the grain. It just never broke down to an available form in which your soil test that you've been taking can't pick it up. It's just not there. It is there. It's just not there. So in that 6 months that you're not doing anything in those fields, or just 5-6 months that you're not doing anything in those fields, there's things that are doing things in that field. Those microbiology is breaking down the residue from your corn and your soybeans and possibly your wheat and possibly all of the above. And then if you introduce cover crops, your cover crops are putting carbon back in the soil, which is feeding the mycorrhiza fungi and all the microbiome itself. It's just feeding it because you need carbon, CO2, to make a healthy soil, to build organic matter, to build that carbon in your soil, to be able to store water. So for every % of organic matter that you have in your soil, and I'm not talking organic residue, I'm talking organic matter. For every % of organic matter you have in your soil, you will hold 27,000 gallons of rainwater. So if you've got only 2% organic matter in your soil, and you have a rainstorm, it's only gonna hold what is that? 54,000 gallons. 54,000 gallons out of a rainstorm. But if you have 5%, 6%, 7%, 8%, just think of how many more gallons. You can go from 27,000 gallons, and I've got some ground that is only 1% organic matter. It's awful. You get a 1-inch rainstorm and 90% of that water runs off the ground. Yeah, it should soak in. In a gully washer, it wouldn't soak in. In a slow all-day rain, 1 inch of rain, 27,000 gallons of water. 1 inch of rain will soak in over the course of a day, but not lately have we had events like that. Usually it's all at once, you know. So if you have those covers, they're putting those roots down in the ground, they're converting that into organic matter. The residue that is on the top is keeping the temperatures low in the soil so that your microbiome doesn't cook in the sunlight. Because right now, it's actually 50 degrees outside, but I'm hot because that sun is on my face, and I'm not black, I'm white, so I'm actually reflecting sunlight and heat away from me. I think that's how that goes. White absorbs, no, black absorbs. So your soils, they're darker. They will get hot. A lot of your noxious weeds will sprout at 100, 110, 120 degree soil temperatures. Your microbiology starts to get lazy at 80 degrees. You know, people get lazy at 80 degrees. By the time it's 95 degrees, we're looking for water, and it's no different in the soil. So, yeah. Anyways, I'd probably talked your ear off too much, and whatever. I don't know how much of this will make it to the... Oh, there's my dad. I don't know how much of this is going to make it to the YouTube, but I hope you enjoyed it. And, yeah, there you go.